Well, if you've been watching since Morning Brief, I'm sure you already got a hint of what I was wearing today. Just in case the sun is not outside where you are, as it's the rainy season, it's a lovely cool 23 degrees here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. And it is the show you like to watch, Sunrise Daily. I'm Maukwe Ogunyusuf. Welcome.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Today is July 10, 2025, and it's a cool weather here as well in Lagos. You know, the weather in Lagos and Abuja is usually not so different. So 26 degrees here in the city. Welcome to the show.
Ayo, who told you that? He who feels it knows it. I mean, when you come to Abuja, you know that it is really cool without any of the humidity, that goes along with it in Lagos. But hey, we're not here to shade one another's weather. We're here to present a program. But guess what else is being presented in the Federal Capital Territory, in the last couple of days? Well, first we've been having young lawyers being called to bar. We've been seeing that over the last few days in the Federal Capital Territory. It seems they have to do it in batches these days, given the number of people. But that's not the only thing that's been happening. We've also been seeing book launches. So yesterday was one of those book launches, this time around by a presidential spokesperson, a former presidential spokesperson, Mr. Garba Shehu, yesterday launched his own account account of his stewardship while he served with President Muhammadu Buhari. We'll be bringing you that report of what transpired shortly, because some statements made there seem to be quite controversial. While a number of people, a lot of the administrators or a lot of the officials of that particular administration showed up to show support to one of their own, led by former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, who was there, as well as the SGF and a number of other officials, including the Chief of Staff to the President, Ibrahim Gambari. Mr. Boss Mustapha said something which the headlines have run with, including us. We ran with that particular headline yesterday because even though he didn't quite say it like that, if you look at what he was saying, this essentially was what it seemed to mean. So we'll be, as I did say, we'll be delving much later into what he said. But today, there is another book launch, and this time around is from Mohammed Adoke, who served as the Attorney General to former President Goodluck Jonathan. And he's writing on OPL 245, that particular controversial oil operating license. This morning, my daughter was asking me, Mommy, what's OP? She thought it was OPI, and I said, no, it was OPL. I think all prospecting license. Yeah, I think that's what I told her. OPL 245. So we'll be getting something much later on Channels Television if you stay tuned. We hope you do stay tuned. Because we're bringing you pictures from that book launch live. It does appear that the former Attorney General wants to be able to lay to rest whatever controversy was hanging around that, and he's taking great pains to write that particular book. But Ayo, before I take us through the list of things we're looking at this morning, quite a number of things to look at. There was also at the National Assembly yesterday some conversation that started over Ponzi schemes. The National Assembly, one of the suggestions that even came was that with the advent of these Ponzi schemes and given just how many they are and just how they scam and scheme Nigerians of their money, some people were suggesting the capital punishment. Yes, some lawmakers thought that people should hang for defrauding people. And I'm sure that, the jury will still be out as to what people have to say about that. But just in case you missed the recap of what transpired yesterday at the country's National Assembly, here is what transpired.
That out there, Nigerians think that senators, a lot of money is spent on National Assembly. But once you step out of the National Assembly, you are looking for money to even treat yourself, which shows the fallacy of all the insinuations and innuendos thrown at the legislators. So I think it was an eye-opener for a lot of people. Because some people think that we come here to make money. They don't know that we come here to sacrifice for the growth of the nation so we can leave a better country for future generations.
Well, we didn't bring you the exact recap of what transpired around that conversation on CBEX, but that statement you heard, which caused a bit of stir amongst Nigerians, that of the Senate president saying that, you know, National Assembly members go there to make sacrifices, not to make money. You know, some people are raising their brows as to really, I mean, how come it is? Well, there'll be questions on that. But Ayo, these are some of the things that went down, and very soon we'll be introducing our guest who will be taking us through some of the developing issues that we have noticed. We'll also be talking about U.S. Reciprocity issue. But you heard the Senate president there yesterday talking about not prayers to their mailboxes this time, but how much sacrifice our legislators actually make. Ayo, I hope you're appreciative of the sacrifice that your legislator is making on your behalf.
Well, let's first of all be clear that the legislators know their jobs. I'm sorry. I hope they do, because one of the things that we have discussed on this program, where you would also recall, is that when the constituents, their various constituents, are asking them to build boreholes or maintain their highways or build, repair their roads and all those things, they should be able to educate the people, their people, and tell them that's not really my job. My job is to facilitate those things and not to do it. So when we hear stuff like constituency projects, we should be able to educate the people and say, this is not my job, this is my job, and all of those things. But I guess that part of their jobs it also depends on how they're able to pass it on. But there is no doubt, Malpe, that the legislators are doing a lot of work on their own. A good number of times we invite so many of them, but we are told that they can't really come out as early because, they probably spent too late a time into the night, so waking up very early is usually a problem. But that's not really one of the things that bothers me much this morning. One of the things that I would love to speak to, remember that the chairman of the APC is no longer chairman in that place. He's now been moved from one chairmanship to another chairmanship, which is the chairmanship of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN. Now, why is that relevant, Mokwe? A few days ago, a friend of mine was asking me what exactly is happening to airfare costs and all those things. And I'm wondering, what do you mean? He said 2 people in his home, one his spouse and the other his son, bought return tickets. I don't know which airline, and I don't think it matters much, that they had to pay to worry 900,000 naira. Now, the first question you're asking is, you don't even know the words, how to put the words together. And so one of the things a number of people will be wondering is, wait, is this an international flight? So if the naira is gaining grounds and things are still this expensive, is it because it is taxed? All these things that we're hearing about taxation or tax reforms being beneficial, are we going to wait until January next year before we start to gain the benefits of these tax reforms? What exactly is happening? Can someone make it make sense to Nigerians? Just one of those questions, Malco, and I hope we're ready for the next conversation.
Indeed, we are. Our guest is seated. But yes, Ayok, let's not even get started on airfares. I think that we need to call the attention of the FCCPC, Consumer Protection, to take a look at what is happening in that sector. It's holiday season. A lot of people, yes, students are currently writing their exams as we speak. And, it's a long holiday. So people will want to make plans. Unfortunately, we do not still have, rail linking most parts of Nigeria together. For instance, one would have thought that by now we should have a rail line linking Abuja and Lagos. But if you were to go and check the air prices now, you'd be asking, where are we going to precisely? How come, as you have said, I thought dollar was reducing against the naira was gaining ground. But let me not get ahead of myself. Our guest is currently seated, Mr. Akande, who is the anchor of Channels Television's Inside Sources and also a former presidential aide, is seated right here with us. Thank you so much for coming to the program this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark. Good to see you.
I couldn't wait to get started on this very first issue, which is this question of who installed who that came out at the book launch of Mr. Garba Shehu. I want to imagine you were there yesterday. Were you able to make it?
Yes,
it was quite an interesting event and was very well attended.
Impressive
all of the
turnout.
dignitaries. Yes.
Yeah.
However, some controversial statements from the keynote speaker, former SGF of the Buhari administration. How did the hall feel when that statement came out?
Well, so I was sitting right beside Mr. Sunday Dare, the special advisor to the President of Communication, and Mr. Adebaye, the Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, Buhari. And the moment Boss Mustapha said that, he doesn't want to, he opened up and said that, well, I don't want to stir up a controversy.
So he knew it had the potential
exactly,
to be controversial.
And then he went ahead to say that. I just don't understand why that point is necessary at this time. And I've not been able to talk to Mr. Boss Mustapha afterward. It's completely unnecessary. The truth of the matter is that there was no way former President Muhammadu Buhari would have made it to the presidency without the significant support that he then had from the South. So, I don't really understand why, like I said, Boss Mustapha had to bring up the issue. It was completely unnecessary.
Yeah, because I'm looking at how the papers are reporting. It depends on which paper you look at. You look at The Nation, for instance, and they have a pretty tame take on it. It says, Tinubu's reforms building on Buhari's legacy. His picture is right there. It says, ex-SGF finds nexus in two leaders' programs. So, as I said, depends on who you speak to. But Daily Trust is pulling up punches. It says, Tinubu didn't make Buhari president, Boss Mustapha. That's basically what he said. Wasn't that what he said?
Well, I'm not sure that he meant it that way, but that is how it turned out, because like I said, it was saying that I'm not trying to cause a stir here, which is why I said that, it's important for people to understand, how what you say is going to be reported. I won't be surprised if it goes about trying to take it back or try to make some clarification, because you cannot really justify the essence of that claim. Nobody can be president, whether it's Buhari or Tinubu, without some kind of a meeting together of minds, the handshake across the Niger, like they say. Yes, President Buhari has quite a bit of his support, the bigger chunk of his support from the north, but there was no way. He tried it in 2003, he tried it in 2007, he tried it in 2011. However big the numbers are from the north, it has always been insufficient without the support that you got from the south, which was what President Tinubu and his own people made happen, which was what the APC party made happen. So for Boss Mustapha to try to come and diminish that, I don't know what he's trying to do.
Well, talk about diminishing now. There's this issue of U.S. visa reciprocity, the time being allotted or given to Nigerians who apply for U.S. visa. It does appear that is diminishing too by the minute. Initially, Nigerians were getting 2 years, then later on, there was some controversy somewhere. I think it was made 1 year, then they reviewed it and increased it to 5 years if you've been to the U.S. before. And now they say, you know what, we're visiting this issue of reciprocity. You give us, how many months do you give us? So we give you 3 months. Yeah. If, that's what our citizens get. I understand that the Nigerian government seems to be pushing back, but this is the current reality that Nigerians will have to face who will be applying for the U.S. visa. What did you make of it?
Well, I think it's something that is, quite a bit of a concern because the Americans are claiming that they have done this in reciprocating to what it is the Nigerian government had done. In the statement of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they didn't quite own up to that claim. So one is still trying to have some kind of clarity as to exactly what happened. The Americans will seem to say that, look, I mean, you guys withdrew this kind of action. I mean, you reduced the numbers of the validity of the visa, and it was a one entry, and so we are also doing that back. So the Nigerian government, in its own reaction, did not really say that this was what happened. So we have to find out a bit more clarity. You try to actually interrogate the Foreign Affairs Ministry to tell us exactly, is it true, like the Americans are claiming, that they are reciprocating what we have done? Because I'm not very clear, where the situation is. But the fact of the matter is that it's not serving the Nigerian people well, especially for people who have legitimate business back and forth, family issues back and forth, students, a lot of who are used to the double entry, and the longer validity of the visa. To now suddenly have to go back every 3 months, it doesn't serve our people very well at all, and I imagine that there are less Americans coming to Nigeria compared to Nigerians going to America. So it's something that the government should sit up to take a good look at. I think it's good that the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs quickly also issued a statement that they are reviewing the situation. But we want to know, is it true the claim that the Americans are making that this is just a reciprocal action from them, responding to what we have done?
It's a big question, which we will not know because we don't apply for Nigerian visas now, do we? But it'll be interesting to note because Nigeria too has also had quite a season, with visas, trying to attract foreign direct investment, saying, we'll give you visa on entry, visa on arrival. Now we have e-visa, etc., etc. So when we measure reciprocity, should things like ease of even being able to get that visa, should it also matter? And then the amount of money paid, for instance, people know that to get an American visa, maybe because it's for 5 years, they don't mind how much they pay. But if they have to pay the same amount to get a 3-month visa, a number of people will say that certainly cannot be reciprocity.
Well, so reciprocity will mean that even the sum, the amount of money is almost the same.
It should be, right?
Yeah, that will be what will be reciprocal, So now that's why I said that we need a little bit more clarity from the Nigerian government. They need to come forward, they need to come forward much to say that, look, this is exactly what happened. The insinuation out there is that during the past administration, that was when the 5-year validity and the double entry stuff was done from our side, and the Americans also kept the plan. The insinuation is that was changed sometimes later, and then the Americans gave observed that this is what had happened, waited a little bit of time for reciprocal, to restore it. It wasn't restored, and they had to come out and say, well, look, if this is how you're going to do it, then this is how we're going to do it. So I think it behooves on the federal government to give us a little bit more clarity and try to sort this thing out, in the interest of Nigerians.
Indeed. Let's quickly tie that to the president's bilateral visits now, and also, I say multilateral visits, because the visit to Brazil, much as it's got a bilateral tone, I think is also multilateral in dimension, given the fact that we're going to the BRICS. And we're seeing what is happening with the extra tariff being slammed on BRICS nations. People have asked whether it will affect us. I listened to the president's one of his aides the other day, who was saying that, we are just observers. We're not yet exactly a BRIC nation. And I'm saying, come on. You were talking about partner the other day. Wouldn't we be affected by this extra, is it 1% or 10% tariff being slammed on the BRIC nations?
Well, I think that clearly the Americans are a bit panicky about what BRICS represents, especially with the Trump, emphasis on America first. And there are also undertones about what it is that BRICS people are trying to achieve in terms of trying to take away the dominance of the dollar and such other things. So clearly, there will be some undertones that, undercurrents about whether Nigeria is part of that or not. Now, Nigeria ought to be, in my view, we ought to be a substantial member of BRICS. It should actually be BRICS N or BRICS, But we haven't conducted ourselves in such a way that we now have to be, coming on the periphery. Now, but what has to happen now is that we need to understand that we don't have, and this is very serious, Markwe, we don't have ambassadors. And for about 2 years of the Tinubu administration, Nigeria has no substantive ambassadors in the capitals. So a lot of things that we ought to be putting on the front burner will not get there because we don't have, full ambassadors who are considered to be personal representatives of the president. We don't have an ambassador in Washington, D.C. We don't have even in Brazil.
Why is it taking so long?
It's curious. It's curious. This is the first time in a long time that in 2 years, it's almost going to be 2 years now, but because I think they were withdrawn sometimes in November 2023. No ambassadors. Who does that? It's completely correct. There are no experts. They say, oh, there's no money, it's going to take a lot of money. Hey, we have a Minister for Foreign Affairs. Now we have 2 of them. It is incredible that they are not going to the president's office every day to sort this matter out. Because why are you a foreign minister if you don't have ambassadors who are representatives of the president to get the job done properly? There are meetings that only ambassadors, the ranking ambassadors, that's what they call them, ambassador extraordinary plenipotentiary. They are seen as the president. There are meetings where only them can go to. If you have somebody who is an acting head, they get into those countries will not so it's not the time for not to look, Trump will got a deal with anybody who comes forward to cut a deal. But we don't have an ambassador in Washington. Just if it is money, why don't you say, okay, look, let's identify some 10 important countries where we need to put some ambassadors, some of our neighbors, and then maybe AU, and then New York, London, Paris, Russia, and those places. But not to have substantive ambassadors going on to 2 years, I think Mr. President needs to really, really call his ministers of foreign affairs and sort this matter out.
Well, while we wait for that to happen, we saw something positive, I would say, happen during the week as well. While the U.S. might be reducing the time for visas in reciprocity, in the spirit of reciprocity.
Right.
The U.K. Decided that I think about 3,000 items coming into their country, can come duty-free from Nigeria. And that is certainly something to cheer. What do you think will happen, given the fact that the U.K. has always been our traditional partners and allies in that regard? Do you see us being able to utilize this particular development, given just how we didn't quite, leverage the AGOA that was done by the United States?
Well, I think that, with the Brexit and the way it panned out, with the Brits, it was natural for them to open their borders to people who really want to do business with them, including Africans, and Nigeria is quite on top of that. So it's a good thing, and I think Nigerians will take good advantage of it. There are places in London, I'm sure you probably know this, where you will think that you are in Nigeria in terms of what is served, even some of the produce. Some of them open in the middle of the night. It's all there. So I think Nigerians are already attuned to this, to doing business and doing it properly at that level with the Brits. So I expect that this new policy is going to enlarge the space, and we're going to see an improvement of that going forward. It's a very good thing, and it can help even our foreign earnings, if we do it properly.
Should we be doing something locally, to leverage? Do you think that some ministries should be directly involved to leverage this?
So there will be several more opportunities for us to trade, even in things that we are not currently trading in. And I think that's the point. We got to sit down and see how we can maximize what it is, a good opportunity between us and the English people.
Well, Mr. Laulu Akande, there are so many more things I wanted to take you up on, but I guess that there will be time enough for that. We have to thank you for coming on this morning. Mr. Laulu Akande is a former presidential aide and also the anchor of Channels Television's Inside Sources. And I think the program will be airing tomorrow, right? Yes, indeed. So we're airing tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming once again. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we have another guest waiting in the wings, and this time around we'll be talking politics. Please don't miss it. Yes, indeed. I did tell you that we're switching gears to politics now. And this time around, we're taking a look at recent developments around the polity. In recent times, the National Assembly has undertaken a constitutional amendment process, and they've taken that to different parts of the country, to different zones in the country, to try and get a feel of what the people want. In some cases, they've asked for new states to be created. But in some other cases, like in the South zone, when they went to Akwa Ibom State, that was firmly rejected. We're happy in the state that we are in, and those Western states are not speaking for us. So we've had situations like that. But what else should be the priority of this constitutional amendment, even as we take on other issues that the Grand Coalition is also bringing on board? This morning, we have joining us Dr. Nnaji, who is a public affairs analyst. Dr. Nnaji, we have missed you on this program. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mwakwe. I'm glad to be here. And good morning to Nigerians and their viewers in diaspora.
Well, I'm sure that you have been watching very keenly developments in the polity. We've spoken about constitutional amendment process several times. And of course, we know that this is, one recurring decimal with every assembly that has come on board. What do you think should be the priorities of this particular assembly, even as they consider this matter of constitutional amendment?
Thank you very much. To start with, the opportunity to amend the Constitution is informed by the desire to adjust to emerging realities that were probably not considered, foreseeable, or maybe forgotten by way of one interest or the other suppressing us at that particular time. It's an opportunity to redress such situation and address new developments in the polity or within the political system. Having said this, the question is, even the ones that have been done before, what were they able to achieve? And the purpose of amendment has always been to make sure that we improve our federalism. A lot of arguments have been put forward that our federalism is highly lopsided, not only in favor of the federal government that carries a lot of the powers, but also that in terms of relationship between states or among the states, there are problems. So citizens themselves are not getting the best that they could, but by way of their own citizenship rights and the personal development. So we would want to see a situation where in this particular instance, especially given the fact that APC seem to have all the muscles to engineer that change by way of this amendment, to be critically focused on development and patriotic zeal to make this country a more habitable estate. For example, the federal government should be able to cede some of its powers under the exclusive list and be concentrating on more issues of national development rather than all the drudgeries of, for example, you want to get involved in education, primary education, secondary education, or issues concerning local governments and what have you. Those things will be dragging the federal government. It should be interested in things like citizenship, defense, and what have you. Security, everybody have been insisting that we should have state police or local police. Local, it should be state, it could be local government, and so on and so forth. It doesn't have to be state. But the important thing is that it has the force to maintain law and order. And the mechanism to work it out is there. Everybody knows. But because of interest of certain groups, or as you say, some powerful groups, we have not had the opportunity to test it. People will start by saying that the state governors will abuse. Is federal government not abusing police in some administrations? So what is the fear about? The issue is that by the time we practice, we become more perfect. So, some clauses can be inserted to make sure that nobody has the opportunity to abuse the process. It is doable. But to say outrightly you throw the baby with the bathwater is not right. There are issues that have to do with local government. I have always advocated, yes, the Supreme Court has made a statement on the issue of local government funding and what have you. But I believe that local government should be an affair of the states, and they should not take from the federation account. They should be subjected to the states. If a state wants to create 100 local governments, it will be done, maybe as an administrative means of reaching the people. But this idea of insisting that local governments can no longer be created, see what has happened to Lagos for a long time. All the LCDAs are still hanging there. Then because they fear that if they allow them to become local governments, they will begin to share from the federation account. Let us disabuse a situation where people use those top tier. In a federation, it's usually two-tier. States are the federating units. And so whatever you do at the local government will be your own shame if you don't want to develop your own people. Your people will agitate against you. But not to use it as a conduit to siphon the federation account to the discomfiture of other people who are not equally opportune. It was an opportunity for them to be created then under the military government. But now the door is closed and almost foreclosed. So that issue should be revisited under this constitutional amendment arrangement. There are a lot of issues in the legislative list where federal government should offload and leave the states. And of course, the states should leave the local governments being appendages to them to execute. It makes efficiency very, very possible. So the whole issue is to ensure that you don't have a burgeoning federal government against an emasculated state government and the other local government in the line.
So essentially you're saying that we should have more local government administrations as opposed to creating more states. Is that what you're saying essentially? Dr. Nnaji, can you hear me?
I cannot hear you. The network suspended the talk.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to get. I hope you can hear me now, Dr. Nnaji.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Awesome. So you're saying essentially, because if I can just, one of the things I can sift from what you just said now, that it's better for us to have more local government administrations as opposed to the clamor for more states.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the reason is this: governance is local. All they do at the state level sometimes is just egotistic. But when you take the governance to the local level and you have a local government chairman who lives ostentatiously, he is not likely to live in that local government because he can't survive it. They know him. They know him or her, even to the family level. They know how he started. Like I always say that nobody in a village does not know the farm of the man who claims to be the greatest farmer. You cannot claim to be a greatest farmer without having a big barn, of yam. So in the villages, they know you. There is a history to that claim. In the same manner, what we have is too much politics. In many places where you have up to 30 local governments, 40 local governments, and so on and so forth. It is just revenue. And some of those local government chairmen and workers, they only come during the time to share the allocation. And the issue is no longer about governance. And the ultimate loser is the Federation. The Federal Republic of Nigeria is the ultimate loser.
Okay, I was going to lure you into one of the things that we really enjoy about you, and that's those analogies that we call proverbs. So there is this one that is said, and it's going to lead to my next question, Dr. Nnaji. It's an African proverb that the head of a newborn can't be bent when we have elders in the market. Last year, some group of elders called the Patriots paid the president a visit. And one of the things that they were asking for the president to do was to consider a new constitution. Of course, the president responded to them that in something that's in the works, but the economy was top priority. Now, this new, as Marco mentioned, the constitution amendment process is always, it's a recurrent decimal, so to speak, for every assembly. Are you with those who say, let's just jettison this constitution and create a new one altogether? Or you think this amendment is something that can still continue to go on?
Okay, while the yam is being expected to be harvested, you can still eat corn from the same farm, because corns can be harvested before the gestation period of yam. And there is also this saying, even if we are doing amendment while we are agitating for a completely new constitution, because the confab done in 2014 can provide the basis of anything we want to do with the constitution. Nigerians were almost converging under that particular arrangement to being a nation. But when time effluxed, some people saw they were having another opportunity and advantage. They decided to begin to agitate to jettison that particular document. But many eminent Nigerians agree that that particular 2014 confab was very, very, very honest on the part of the attendees to articulate. They articulated essentially the hopes and aspirations of many Nigerians on the issue of citizenship, nationhood, and so on. Because we live in a country where a group may think that they have better advantage because of one thing or the other, and they think that they are superior to others. But no nation is built with that kind of mindset. Even in a family, you don't see any good family where the parents allow their children to begin to portray themselves as superior to the other. It only breeds envy, and envy breeds disharmony in the family, just as we have it in Nigeria today. Because even if it is a house help, you are beating the house help from morning till evening. Later in the night, the house help can decide to resist in a very surprising manner, in a manner that the critics say that rather than those people who should eat it, who shouldn't eat it, should eat it, it will scatter its stomach, knowing fully well that by scattering its stomach, it's already dead, but it would have deprived those people intending to eat it the opportunity of eating meat. So this is the issue about bad governance and misgovernance. So let the situation agree, like you wanted this proverb, if snake must deliver, let it deliver something long, because snakes are not expected to deliver something short.
Okay, well, Dr. Nnaji, there is this other issue bordering on governance, maybe. A good number of politicians, of course, they've moved from one party to another over time since this Fourth Republic began. But now there's this new wave of a coalition that is being spoken about. Now, the angle that a good number of people perhaps may not have looked at is what is responsible for a coalition when we have existing political parties? In your opinion, what do you think could inform, or what are the chances of a coalition that is formed by politicians from existing political parties that are having problems?
Well, you have used the word coalition. Coalition means that one could not do it. It has to coalesce with others. But you know, there are dynamics involved in that. Whether that coalition will really coalesce well, because when you are mixing milk with tea, if the two are immiscible, then it is not possible to drink tea. What you'll be drinking is milk and then tea of any particular brand. But to coalesce means that there has to be, even if there is no ideological basis, the individuals have to have some tendencies towards a particular principle of life and governance. They also have to look at the law and see what the law provides to ensure that they are within the framework of their political rights, so to coalesce. And then they have to talk about how they want to reach out to the electorate, since votes are not supposed to be manufactured. Read my word. Votes are not supposed to be manufactured. Even though we know there's a word called rigging and all that in our climate. So anybody who is intending to go to the electorate must be able to have something that will appeal to the electorate and induce them to throw their vote. They say that the ballot box is the most painless killer. But that is not the case in Nigeria, because you can always even carry the ballot box and end the pain. But what I can tell you is the coalition is still nascent. There's a dynamics, because if it's only a tree that knows that the man coming with a machete is coming to hack it down, he will stand and be looking at it. There are also the tendency that the APC will probably be doing its own political maneuvers and machinations to ensure that even if the coalition exists, it may not have the muzzle to achieve the intention of ousting it from power. So it's a dynamics that we will be looking at and see how it goes. But we know that it will be to the disadvantage of APC to think that coalition is not possible of sweeping it out of power, because it should also remember, like a child who is crying that somebody has a defective birth circumstance, will also have to look at its own poverty, how it started. So the point I'm making is that the political space should be allowed free access to politicking. There should be no intimidation by anybody who may be feeling powerful to do so. There should also not be mudslinging or political, machinations of people who may be weak and using their mouth to ingratiate their political chances. So that will also help to heat up the polity. So that's my own take on the coalition. I don't want to make too much statement on that, because there is still unraveling, and we can also not dismiss them outrightly. So it is for them to prove themselves worthy, because anybody who wants to who wants to mold the metal gong should go and look at the tail of a kite and see how nature has provided the model. So if they want a coalition and all those things, they should also borrow a leaf from APC's coalition, even if it was merger or whatever. But it can start from coalition to merger, as the case may be, so that is my position. I don't want to, I don't want to say so much on the prospect of the coalition, whether it will fail or succeed. But any child born into this world can be president. It has the potential. If he is not killed by the uncle, if the parents are dead, or killed by armed robbers or kidnapped, anything can happen. It's a potential.
Well, perhaps on the same issue, but maybe slightly different. One of the reasons that's been adduced for that necessitated the coalition is that we do not have a virile opposition party in the country, and consequently, the federal government, or rather, the ruling party, is running. It's just doing as it wishes. Do you see a value in that conversation when we had such a strong showing by two main opposition parties in the world, two main opposition parties now? Why do you think what's responsible for not having such forces as strong as it would have been to give this government a run for its money, the federal government a run for its money?
Let me start by saying that, like I did say sometime in another forum, when there was argument about whether Nigeria was going to be one-party state or whatever. And I quickly dismissed that possibility. And indeed, anybody who is thinking that way does not understand the history of this country. This country is not very, we are so multi-dimensional in every aspect to be hoodwinked into one funnel and bottled up in a small bottle like that. So there will always be agitations. The only thing is that in a bush or a forest, you may have so many elephants, but some of them will have foot of clay, so they can't run. So that is the thing that is happening here. And nature, we say, always abhors vacuum. Whenever you tend to bottle anything, it will find an opportunity to escape. You can't easily bottle gas unless you put it under pressure. And you have to be ensuring that you are keeping it under that pressure. And anybody holding anybody down does not go to answer a call freely, because that other person will escape. So the point I'm making is because, yes, everybody knows that political parties in Nigeria, many of them are really not, in law, they say they're political parties, but the motive is to trade, to cut deals with those who have the capacity to perhaps, or even play the spoiler. So if we had political parties that run on the railroad of ideology, in which there's personal conviction on individuals joining them, you see, hunger is also not helping. It's exacerbating the political trade. Everybody is moving. When people lose election, they move to the ones that have won election. But the truth of the matter is that such people also are not doing it for the love of the political party they are going to. Like I said, when you have too many people who are rushing to a particular political party, what they did to their own, they will repeat it in the new one. By the time they reach the level of operation.
I beg your pardon, Dr. Nnaji. Just one issue I want to squeeze in before we go is the issue of inclusion. Excuse me. Young people don't seem to have an easy inroad into politics, into governance, be it at the federal or at the state, even at the local government levels. Do you think we need a kind of leadership mentoring system to be incubated maybe by the political parties or the state governments or the federal government? What do you think? How do you think we can systemize youth inclusion for leadership recruitment?
Well, before I answer that question, the danger in what has happened is that even the younger ones you clamor about that have been recruited have become worse than the elderly ones that had recruited them. Because when the goat is chewing north, the baby goat, the kid, is also watching. So that is what we have in the political firmament. So look around the young ones that are in politics and in positions of authority, see what they are doing themselves. So the chicanery and all the violence and what have you, everything is still here. The younger ones are not showing good example. The good example that could have come from the younger ones, those ones are excluded because they have not shown promise to those who do the recruiting. They are the ones that, I mean, how do you see apple and then you go and choose stone? That is the case of Nigeria. That stone is lethal. The apple will give you vitamin, But we know, and we still deliberately, because of maybe mere porridge, and begin to regret very raucously at the end of the day, because pain is always waiting at the end of any process, pain and pleasure. So it's for you to choose pleasure at the early stage and avoid pain and then suffer for your life. Or you take pain and then go for pleasure for eternity. It's a matter of choice. So the point I'm making is there is no way you can go and carry youth and put in an incubator. It's not a hatchery. Or what do they call those people who raise chicken? There's nothing like that. It is by doing. Those
Dr.
people who
Nnaji,
are there now.
Dr. Nnaji. I really wish that we had more time. I mean, I clearly did say that we had missed you. And we look forward to having more engagements with you, especially as the political process unfolds. We have to thank you very much for coming on Sunrise early this morning. Dr. Nnaji is a public affairs analyst and also a legal practitioner. Nnaji. Well, that's how we wrap up the program this beautiful Thursday morning. It's Thursday already. Can you imagine that? Well, that's where we, say goodbye. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Akande. Have a wonderful rest of your day.